right, let's see if it is going. What is going on, good people? Alrighty, I think we got them both running this time, so I will take it. Hang out for a little bit here, and hope everyone is well. I have it on landscape this go around, so just a heads up, you may have to switch your phone around to be able to, I guess, see it correctly and all that stuff. But let me know if you hear me, just to make sure for sure. A deferred claim just means that they're not done. So they'll award 2 or 3 or deny 2 or 3, and they just defer to later. So basically, they're not done yet. So just push it off. That's all that means. Dun, 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 dun. What is going on, everybody? Actually, let me see. Where is my... All right, let me slow this down. Yeah, let me know the branch of service you were in. I was like knowing that. That's pretty cool to me. What's up? Mental health exam coming up. When is the exam? Tips I have this Wednesday. We are doing ACE your CMP exam. So that is one of the main things that I would full show um, highlight. Let me see. Take this off because it keeps doing that whole little thing where it's like it's trying to center stage and whatnot. Um, but yeah, this coming week we have next Thursday main contact with team. So yeah, I got a cardio on schedule though. So depending when you reached out, it's not going to be like a same day type of thing. So to manage expectations. Um, but this coming Wednesday, we are doing. Our, yeah, the sound did go out. There's that. Be nice if I actually put the daggone sound out. What I was saying was, it should be only about 3 weeks So actually rewind. So this Wednesday we are doing Acer CMP class, and little things we're touching on are welcome, who we are at VNCC, what is CMP, what to expect, what not to expect. We'll talk tips, bad CMP exams, and a Q&A. As far as reaching out and been waiting 3 weeks, it should be about literally a 1 week turnaround. It should not be that long. So shoot me a DM, and I'll find out what's going on with that. Shit happens, you know what I mean? It's technology. So I'm not one to sit here and try to sugarcoat stuff. So if the ball was dropped or something, we'll figure out what was that. But that's the biggest thing there. Present you back your first time go. Nice. Congrats, Devin. But that is the class for Wednesday. But yeah, on the road, saw Jerry today, so I was sharing a little bit of that. So that was cool to spend some time with Jerry. Put some of that in my stories as well, so that was dope to share. If you want to see that, that's up on my stories. But let's see. Discerning, what's going on, brother? When you were live, I came in live, kept freeze, so I couldn't stay on. Army still, no sound. Okay, it should be out now, back again. Yeah, I'm on the road now, so on the road, it's like I usually do everything on my desktop, so my laptop, I got to try to put things back in perspective. What's up, Liz? Back in gear, so. But on the road today, hope everybody is well, though. Shared some stuff from that event today, so that was kind of cool. Hope everybody, if you want to take a look at that, that would be for sure. The DBQ is something I'll touch on, but there's no real class that really has to be like a DBQ class. CMP, I cover everything, so I touch everything from DBQs, the CFR, and everything. So the DBQ is part of the CFR, so I wouldn't say you ace a DBQ because that's really like a block of instruction. The DBQ is all part of the CMP, so that's how I would like approach that. Let's see. Dun 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 dun. But yeah, wanted to pop in a little earlier, but that didn't work out too well. So here we are, making some moves and on the road. But let's see. Why is my claim stuck on SEP 3 for 90 days? Can't tell you. Many reasons. The VA is a VA. I actually watch a lot of your videos, prepare for the CMP. Awesome, Devin. Got that help. What was helpful to you? Dun, 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 dun. HLRs are kind of a 50-50, realistically. It's kind of it really depends, right? Because an HLR is just giving you a second look at something submitted already. So if you were missing things on that HLR Lou, it might not really, amount to much, right? You still may end up denied. If something's missing, you may have to go and do a supplemental. So it really depends, honestly. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, class. Check out my tinnitus video. I had it up on stories, I want to say, but the audiology exam is pretty straightforward, right? It's audio discrimination and where are you on being able to hear certain things. So we're talking tinnitus. Did you have it before? Yes or no? Do you have it now? When did it start? What aggravated it? And for the audiology itself, it's not just do you hear a beep, 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 click, 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 but it's also audio discrimination. Can you make out what is being said to you and so forth? So a few of that goes into play. Let's see. Let's see, discerning dash. Would it be stupid to file? Would it be dumb to file for an increase if 100% out the gate? Why would you go for increase for what specifically? and it probably froze again. There you go. Yeah, no. As far as yeah, an increase without an exam is an ace exam. I think I'll get 10% for GER because the examiner did not say I have feelings. Something like. Yeah, so don't do that. Just you have to wait. So if you're still waiting on things, don't try to gameplay this as the next move. I never advise that. The play here for you now becomes more. Let's focus on what actually does come back from the separation piece, because again, as far as an increase and more, if you're 100, well, first of all, let's get to the 100. Let's see if we get to the 100 first, and then we'll have a conversation from there as far as if that's the way to go. Increase in the PTSD, again, it depends. I mean, like usually for initial, you're for sure you're gonna have a CMP. Beyond that, not they may do an ACE exam and do an administrative review, so it does happen. Again, depending on where your care is, records and so forth. So a lot of factors go into that. I've seen folks have a reevaluation for PTSD administratively, and they don't get called in. Yeah, they're training dash. I'd say dash on your side. Just see what comes back first and go from there. It may make sense to go for more things if you are at 100, it may not. It really depends on a few things, where you land, what gets rated how, and then from there also looking at, excuse me, what is the whatchamacallit, are there anything? Is there anything that should be rated that we may have to make an argument for, like for ancillary benefits and things like that? So a few different reasons why that may be the play. All right, but yeah, let me know what branch of service y'all were in. That's what the scrolling thing there is for. Always like to kind of ask and know where folks are, so that's always nice to know. But yeah, wrapping up here and Ronis, and then getting ready to DD Mao. So let's actually let's switch that one to that one. Nope, that one. Let's give you that one better. All right, so we don't need this. Don't need that. But this is the plan of action for next week. We are hitting it and talking all things Akalims. So, yeah, that is the battle plan. Make sure I have during Dash's question. I believe it deserved 30. I have all the symptoms, medication. So they don't. I get that honestly, but the problem is that when it comes specifically to these things that we believe we should get, and this is not a you thing, so please don't ever think that that's where this is coming from, but more so this is the problem with this process, right? People at times believe like, hey, this is going to be pretty simple. I have the symptoms, I have all the things, and then you still get denied. The VA gets it wrong. GERD, it's just been one of those things that they're treating pretty pretty funky, right? So I would never look at claims at all under the guise of like, oh, I definitely have this and I know I'm the criteria. That doesn't mean anything. You can still get denied. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the part of the VA process that gets real tricky because you have the symptoms, but it's not about a you thing. It's about them getting it, right? So you believe you deserve a thing doesn't necessarily equate to that. So that's where a lot of this becomes part of the process, and you're dealing with veterans who've been through that up and down. So see, so about 100%, then file for a new claim. There's zero open. No, it won't. They won't do that. For me, I care more about service connection first. I'm able to get care. Once you're 100, you get care for everything. This is more ancillary benefits. Start looking at too. If you need something specific, you want to have that rated. But they don't open your claims up just because you're at 100. Again, just because you have one thing that doesn't equal to the other, that's just a lot of rumor mill that goes into that. Criteria for MST. Honestly, if you had an MST, you're making the argument. There are veterans who've never had a report of an MST or documented it or etc. So you'd have to still identify when did it happen, give some details, and go through the process, just like any PTSD claim, right? But we're talking SA assault, different things like that. Again, I can't really talk too much about that because community guidelines. I start talking about Sierra Echo X-ray, and I'll start getting strikes and stuff. Even though you can thirst trap and that's fine, but yeah, if you had an MST, you go through the same process of PTSD, and then they take it over to a section to assist you as needed in that process of doing all those things. So you have to know the stressor, when it happened, etc. You don't have to necessarily have a complaint in service. Sometimes people don't do that. So there's many ways that goes into that. But yeah. Yep. Let's see. Dun 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 dun. Is it known that I have CMP for mental health? I do see a VA doctor for it. Yes and no. Sometimes if it's you may just be waiting for a CMP. They may do an ACE exam like PTSD initial. They're gonna call you in for that. So that's how that goes. They tend to reel everything and take away some. No, Oscar, that's complete. That's a lie. You appeal one thing again. That's just no. It's not normal. I mean, is it truly if you appeal? They tend to review everything and take away. No. If you're due for a reevaluation, you're going to get reevaluated regardless. As far as new claims, it's just a new claim. So what happens sometimes is a lot of veterans just are due for a reevaluation for things anyway. So the fact you filed the claim, they just knock out two birds with one stone. People assume this triggered that. You're going to get that regardless, whether you realize it or not. So reexaminations are a thing. But a new claim doesn't negate an old claim, and for them to take something away, they'd have to justify and speak as to why it is that they're either going to reduce that because there's marked improvement, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I've been afraid to go back for my 100, and that's a problem, right? Because again, if you have an argument for 100, you're just leaving stuff on the table now because of just what you don't know. You know what I mean? So I get it for sure, but yeah. Probably Terra, you know what I mean? Because that's where that whole Terra thing comes into now. So we're looking at black mold, etc. Where were you? Other documentations of that. Toxic exposure, risk activity, Terra is that new pathway through PAC Act to things that you may have that may have been, toxic in nature, etc. So that's one way that I can go. Let's see. So where are the cases? They will open up your file and evaluate all things again. Want to make sure, like I said, my claims. No, so again, you're overthinking this. Honestly, I think you're just way, way, way in your head right now, Dash. As far as what are the cases, between 3 and 5 years, unless a disability is classified as being static, it's going to be reevaluated. You know what I'm saying? They may forget it and may not get to it, but it's not a thing like, oh my goodness, I have to do all these things. No. You file the claims you have to file, take care of the stuff you have to take care of. Trying to sit there and game the system or play the system or trying to predict when the thing will happen. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to screw yourself over. You're just way, way thinking too many things. Like, that's, again, you're doing it, like, right now you're in the process of transitioning. So you're trying to cover all bases. That's just not how that works. So you're not going to screw yourself over, right? Because you filed a thing. It's not how it works. It's a little more complicated than that, but not that, convoluted. But yeah, not a case thing. It's just more so what's due for reevaluation. A supplemental claim is an appeal. So when you're looking at doing something that was denied before and you're adding new evidence, then you're going to go through a supplemental argument. But they're valid questions, Dash. I'm not, they're definitely valid questions. It's just more understanding that, if things are due for a reevaluation, that's what that means. It just means that you're due for a reevaluation. And then again, that's a 3 to 5 year time frame for most new claims, unless again something is static and there's no likelihood of improvement. But then as other things surface down the road, now you're removed from service 5 or 10 years. You have new conditions. You file for those conditions. It happens to be you're due for a reevaluation. You file for a new thing. They'll knock out those two things, but they're now examining a new claim while also verifying if whatever is open it's still the same, or got worse, or got better. And if not, then they'll probably make it static or just kind of close the books on it. And if you're like 100% and you file for other things, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll take things away. Because again, there's a process as to how that works. Again, they do get it wrong. Things do happen. I'm not negating that. But yeah, but that's why we have to ask the questions, right? To kind of get perspective. So they're good questions. You're welcome. Let's see. Gotcha. No, I understand, Oscar. I understand. But also at the 100, then you have Champ VA. So it comes down to, making, kind of making it work. Mold question, Tara. I'm on the road, so like I said, I won't be out here too long just because, I try to do sometimes stuff on the go, but it just doesn't work out. But um, Terra is toxic exposure to risk activity. So I was here, they had these conditions, black mold was there. Now I have these issues, so I'm going to file for these issues that surface from that, right? So that's one of the things for Terra, TERA, toxic exposure risk activity. So the short answer is yes, you can file for that, but you have to build a case and argument as to where you're pointing that was, and they go through the process of verifying all those things. A supplemental claim, Kamisha takes this. It's like a regular claim, so it can take the same life line time frame between months to about 160 days or so. So kind of all the same. You're welcome. But yeah, so like a regular claim because this it'll be reviewed, go through all that stuff, etc. etc. Issue with the wording, yeah, Tara. Yeah, toxic exposure risk activity. I was here. They had a black mold situation that's noted, records, whatever you have, etc. And then in turn, now I have these conditions that are stemming from that, thing. So yeah, you're welcome. That's what it's all about. Do, 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 do. Uh, let's see. Let's see. Promise if your terror memo was negative and you're older as well, not get a rating. I don't like definitives, man. You know what I mean? I don't like definitives. What's up, Catherine? Yeah, I don't like definitives when it comes to this whole process because the fact of the matter is that you just never know, right? There's so many things that factor into anything, right? So for every instance that someone can say that doesn't happen, this won't happen, no, because I'll then show you 5 instances where it does happen, right? So I understand people's realities, right? Like I experienced this, and I know a few people that experienced that. But I think what needs to be also sometimes shared is that I don't come at this from the perspective of, oh, look, I experienced this. It's not about what I experienced, right? Working with veterans at the scale that we do, it's one of those instances where things do go wrong, right? Things sometimes don't go the way it does. The video's freezing, so that's going to keep happening. Um, no, I understand it's not warranted, but then they still do it, though. That's my whole point. So I'm not negating what you're saying. What I'm saying is I don't like definitives when it comes to VA claims because the problem is then someone says, well, it did happen and it was called, even though it wasn't warranted. Like, I get that. I always look at this from a strategic standpoint, understanding that this is the way things should happen. However, sometimes the system gets it wrong, and we have to understand the bigger picture of things. That's all. Versus, I was told this what is going to happen, and then people start to spiral. So I deal with this, seeing it at scale with so many veterans. That's like, people, we're already dealing with a demographic of individuals who are prone to anxiety and depression and OCD and going down the rabbit holes. We're valid questions, but there's so much fear mongering. And that's what, some of these talking heads do. They love to sit here and fear monger veterans to do a thing because it's good for clicks and all that shit. But then it creates a problem because then you're basically exploiting a veteran by virtue of, fear mongering them. Tinnitus is going away. No, it's not. Sleep apnea is going away. No, it's not. Mental health is going away. No, it's not. Changes happen all the time. GI issues, GERD, etc. That was changed. IBS. Updates happen. Um, So it's one of those things, that, look, at the end of the day, if you had a condition during service, then that helps your case. If not, exam is not warranted. Again, that's okay. If you feel I'm not, what I mean, I'm not necessarily then good. Moving on, what I mean. So it's just one of those things where, again, I know why I'm saying what I'm saying, and it is what it is. So, all right, but let's see. Had won my CMP exams, going for 33 issues. I was in the office for. That's a lot. If you were in there for that long, yeah, it's a lot. Were you transitioning though from service? Um, because 33 issues transitioning. Been out for 20 years, got 30 claims. New rating. CMP, yeah, those changes for that stuff already went into play. Worst case scenario, the claim gets denied, but it's worth a try. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Like, again, the system, sadly, MedBoard got it. Um, One of the biggest things is that in this space, sadly, there's a lot of inconsistencies, right? There are OIG reports saying the VA is doing it wrong and things are not being done correctly. So, what I mean, they don't at times are unable to follow the letter of their own law for a variety of reasons, and not doubting them, not praising them or condemning them. Just the facts, right? If my focus is the veteran, I don't care about the terrain. So to me, I look at this like combat. The terrain, sadly, is the VA claim space. It's the VA. My focus is the veteran, so I don't care about what the process should be. The process is supposed to be this way, but if it doesn't work this way, guess what? We maneuver this way. We do this, right? We appeal. We push back. We stay in the fight. Keeping a veteran in the fight. That's the conversation. That's the thing. And sometimes veterans have to go to the board. Sometimes they have to go, you know, to the board and have to do all that. So let's see. Check on med board. 19 and a half years active. Check. Yeah. Decision letters take usually just got to that step. The decision, it depends on it. Sometimes, Nando, it could be days or weeks or months, and things can be pushed back. So you could be on the decision phase, prep for decision. Something's found that has to be fixed. They'll push it back from post and be like, hey, wait a second, negative ghostwriter. This has to go back. No, I don't. I don't work for the VA. That's why I can speak the way I speak. Let's see. Had a CMP exam, found high blood pressure, sleep apnea claim, got denied for lack of evidence. Well, how did you make the argument for sleep apnea, right? Are we going direct to service? Are we going secondary? What's the argument being made? A few factors have to really go into that. Let's see. So it's only your dependents that can use Champ VA, not the veteran. Correct. I didn't think that made sense. Whether it be a clinic from me, community care is what you'd have to use. So that's the way you'd have to go community care and figure out the different ways. Connection, since I got 10% for COPD asthma, do I need another doctor's appointment or is it the CMP? CMP. VA always tells you what they want you to appeal and under description of decision. Correct. Yep. Yep. Let me try to switch this actually. This one is acting kind of funky, so we'll just go this way and call it a day. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. Let me switch it over here also. We'll go back to this one. And let's just keep it over here. Yeah, VA or champ or community care, but champ is for the family dash. Bum bum bum. CMP coming up. My first one. What's it for? And obviously, that's. I would encourage you come down to come down to our class that I am teaching on Wednesday. Because again, I think it's just you have to have an understanding and awareness, right? So I definitely would invite you to come on down. Some of the things that I cover on this class that again, there are things I can't talk about on social media, just because it's community guidelines and disability is not a entertaining topic that the system likes. You'd be surprised how many strikes you get sometimes just for talking about these things. But what are CMPs, what to expect, what not to expect, what exactly is the mode, and what things will be accomplished there. how to present yourself, etc. If you understand the process, what it's supposed to do, what's expected of you, that goes a long way, right? Because again, that nervousness feeling is because you just don't know what you don't know. You're walking into something kind of blind, right? So I would definitely say for sure, you know, having an awareness of that would come in handy. But what is the CMP for? Decision letters. I think I already said that one. Just got to that second save. Yeah, it could be days to weeks. It all depends, honestly. Um, but yeah, yeah, and it's normal to be nervous because again, there's a lot of writing, right? You finally get to a point to finally file the claim and all the things that go into that. So, and there's also ignorance just to the process, right? No one really talks about that. There's a lot of just file a claim, do this, do that, but then okay, now I'm supposed to go in there. What's this whole story? I'll just tell you the truth. Tell them how bad it is. What does that mean? You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where it's like, what does that mean? We speak about that, right? Those are sometimes symptoms, right, of your mental health, where people have the inability to, perform some daily activities of living. There's certain things that you cannot do. What is causing that, agoraphobia or your inability to, leave, etc. What is happening in your mind? What are the scenarios? What's going on psychology wise? Um, the triggers and things you've experienced that puts you in that place, right? So there's definitely arguments that I would say can be made. They have to be rather considered when we're looking at that. But it's very common, sadly. Okay, let's see. Follow your advice and how articulate as a condition. And that's the thing, because the problem is a lot of people that love, you know, uh, well, that goes without saying. It's like your bank account. That's not something that you should necessarily be talking to people about. Um, but even then, okay, don't tell people your rating. But more so, I think what gets lost to that point, Oldness, is we don't. There's a lot of Google a word, say this, say that, but you're not speaking to your own situation, your own reality, right? How are you affected? You're not having that conversation. Sadly, and I talk about this in my class. I simplify it and I always say there's three players when it comes to VA claims. There's a veteran, there's a rater, and there's an examiner. Obviously, there's many more people in the process, but I want veterans to tell their story, and I want that to be the focus, right? Focus on your story. But sadly, the process is so convoluted and broken that veterans now start to become legal, SMEs. They start to become medical, subject matter experts. They start to do all the things but talk about their own things. I'm glad that you can quote the CFR. I'm glad that you can quote symptoms, but you can't tell me that in your own words and apply it to how it affects you because we're so busy doing everything else, right? You'll Google search to the ends of the world, who's the examiner, where are they, and all the things. And I understand that. But it's like, I look at this again, back to class. I look at this from the perspective of when if I'm here in the process of teaching you combatives or teaching you how to effectively do something, use a weapon system, etc. That's the focus, right? We may go into hostile territory, not know the terrain, but we have training. We understand how to maneuver. We understand how to fight. We understand how to shoot. We understand how to use the tools that we have regardless of the terrain changes or unexpected things. When it comes to the exam, we understand what it's supposed to be, and even if it doesn't go according to plan, we understand what we're there to do. We're there to speak to our truth. We're there to speak to the things that are impairing to us, and we can articulate these things and show these examples and understand mentally where we need to go. Because the other part too is you got people who think that they can walk into a mental health exam and say a few things like, I have some suspiciousness and I check my logs and I have some sleep problems and I have some panic attacks and that should be a thing. Well, guess what? Everything I just said is 30%. And I'll show it to you. Let's go to CFR. When it comes to this conversation of VA claims, you'd be surprised how many folks do not understand even the rating criteria, right? Everything I said, look at it right there at the 30 range. You ask a veteran what their symptoms are when it comes to mental health, and they'll sit there and say exactly that. Sounds like every other veteran out there, right? Depressed mood, some anxiety, suspiciousness, checking locks, you have some panic attacks, some sleep issues, and some memory problems. Okay, you didn't say anything. You're not really going deep into a thing. You're not speaking to things at the 50 or the 70. And again, I'm not saying speaking just to key words, but rather what I'm saying is like my video 50 to 70, 70 to 100. I make the distinction that at 50, for example, right, and I'm simplifying it because we're simplifying things, difficulty establishing a relationship and maintaining them is very different than the inability to establish an effective relationships. Right? You got 3, 4 divorces. You've been fired how many times? I think we have an inability to do a thing. We're past having, a difficulty doing something. So understanding that goes a long way. You know, when it comes to that, what is that actually is happening? And the problem is for many veterans, it's you don't know how to tell a thing or do a thing because like an interview, you don't know how to sell yourself. You don't know how to speak to your strengths and the things that you actually can do correctly. When it comes to this, it's the opposite, right? We suck things up, we drive on, we normalize things, everything's a joke, right? Still here, IBS because I ate some MREs. We just baseline things, we normalize our issues, and these are not normal things that we're dealing with. So being able to understand how to be vulnerable and actually open up Pandora's box to the unflattering things we deal with, that's not easy, right? That takes some time for people sometimes to get there because you've boxed things up for such a long time. We had one veteran who filed a claim and did all that thing, and it took a year to turn back around and actually realize that he also had experience in an MST in service. But it took a year to build that, trust and that ability to have that conversation to then start to explore, that claim. You don't just outright come out and say, hey, I was, fill in the blank assaulted, right? That's just not a thing for some people. They just cannot do that. So it's nice to say, hey, just go do that. No, no, no. For some people, you have to give them grace. We got veterans who've waited a long time, who've suppressed things for a long time. So for me, I see veterans in all shades. I see the ones that are transitioning right now, but I also see today. I just check my stories, check my posts. I'm in North Carolina with Jerry. He's a Vietnam veteran in a daggone home, for memory care with dementia and stuff. Like that conversation is completely different for someone in that life than someone leaving service now. So sometimes it's nice to say things that we think are helpful, but when I say something, I'm coming at it from the perspective of how do I communicate this to somebody leaving service who did 4 years, 20 years being med boarded, or someone who's been out for 50 years or more. My oldest veteran, he was out since he's a World War II veteran, and he literally filed his first claim when he was 95. What buddy letters would he get? Right? What records was he going to get? So we have to really, understand how to, help someone get to the place of understanding how to speak to their truth, and how to, for them, be able to go there and talk about these things, right? Appreciate you, George. So, perspective, that's the biggest thing that we need when it comes to these things, right? Some perspective. Um, but yeah, this Wednesday, we're doing Ace Your CMP. So that'll be good. And I did post some stuff that y'all can check out. Actually, today I was with Jerry for his birthday. And I put some of the stories up so you guys can check that if y'all want. So, Navy veteran, Vietnam veteran, and we spent the day today and got some cupcakes and spent some time. So, you know, we have to make time for the things that matter, and our people matter. So Jerry's one of our OGs. First crossed paths in 2019 when he first started the process of going through his process, and he has his ratings, his claims, all his benefits, and fast forward, health is what it is, and as I was saying, he's dealing with his disabilities and his dementia and things like that. So now the focus for him becomes the assisted living facility he's at for, memory issues and things like that, which the VA is covering too. So, the benefits, they go in so many different ways for so many different veterans, that veteran there, his living facility, the things that he needs. Conversely, another veteran who has a child with special needs and, benefits are covering for care for that. Like there's just so many things that it's just so much more than what people think. It's not just a rating thing. It's just, you know, but anyway, I digress. But that's what's going on this week. That is what is going on this week. So if you're able to make it down, um, I'd love to see you in class. Always like spending some time doing some stuff there. Um, Let me see. I'll probably do a live in the morning. I was gonna go walk, but probably gonna knock out for the day. I like doing stuff on the laptop. I like being able to bring things up because I can really kind of showcase things and I can um, highlight stuff there. But the system suppresses lives on a desktop, so that's always a pain versus like on mobile. So it's a whole Mac thing, but sarah. Um, but yeah, just wanted to pop in for a little bit, just hang out for a few after a long day of running around and spending time with Jerry. So I fly back home tomorrow, and we do what we do yet again. 30 to 80. My ward letter said sent me. They said I may be entitled to rhinitis. So worth considering that for sure. If they found that you had a diagnosis for that but weren't ready for it, so potentially something to look at may have been identified in the process of you filing your claim, so you weren't awarded for it, but they found that you do maybe have that condition. Yep. 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 Um, but I appreciate y'all spending some time here for a little bit. I would encourage you to go ahead and check out that link in bio and the stuff we have there. Go get the BDD checklist if you're transitioning. Check out some of the stuff that we have. Literally go and do a search for bad CMP in my username. I have a ton of videos on it and playlists on CMPs as well. But and I cover this ad nauseum. But when we're talking about instances like, rushed exams, they're not letting you speak to a thing, they're pushing you through ranges of motion, you're not able to articulate stuff. There are some red flags for sure, and I highlight them a lot. And then from there, reporting the exam, things to do, things like that would be for sure things to do. But again, being rushed, not being able to speak to a thing, they're late, they're belligerent, all the things. That's a big one. Why do you feel it went bad too? That's also another one, right? How do you feel it went? How did you feel it went? But all right, good people. I'm going to start to shut it down for the day here. Appreciate those that hung out for a bit. But this Wednesday, yes, we do the business of claims. If you want to um, join us for class, you're welcome. I'd always love to meet y'all and spend some time with y'all there. If you go to my page, it'll take you. Oh, that's different. I think my exams went bad. Write it up and report it. That's the biggest thing I have to tell you. So just look up the videos on bad CMPs and I go through the steps on that. But write it up, report it, call it in, send a memo. Yeah, check out class and things we have there. Get on our mailing list. That information is there. Always try to highlight that. I can't control what social media shows you. I can't control the fact that I stream from my laptop 'cause I like to show things, but the system doesn't like that. So it always makes it weird. I can stream on my phone and that's fine. So, I can't control the algorithm. I can't control what you see or don't see. Sometimes, like, I'll be like, hey, I'm going to North Carolina. And people are like, oh, man, if I would have known. I can't control when the system tells you or shows you things. So jump on our mailing list. That's for sure a big thing I would definitely encourage. Check out the classes that we're doing. This week, we're doing Ace Your CMP at Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. That's in Zoom. That's not on social media. I don't teach classes on social media. That's one of those things. Um, I had them put in writing that it was check. Okay. I don't teach classes on social media just because community guidelines. That's all I could say. You know what I mean? The way I teach a class and talking about these things, we have to get really deep down into certain conversations and topics that are just not flattering, and it won't work. Just sadly with the way apparently the systems here don't like that, but That's all she wrote. Again, hopefully they get some response back to you. Thanks, Crystal, for the like and sharing for sure. Um, but let's see. Uh, London Lawson, I watch your TikToks, Daniel. Awesome, man. That's what it's all about. I'm glad to hear that. And that's, I mean, again, I mean, some of these things, it takes time. It's not the most, fun topic that there is. But the goal is, hey, if you can learn something and it starts to make sense, now you're able to be more dynamic, right? And you learn something. That's what it comes down to, right? Like, there's not a funky way to say, hey, come learn something. Especially when you have a lot of talking heads in the space that just like to, present this image of a thing, and they're sitting there trying to sell you some shit. Which again, I'm not against that, but it's like, all I've told you today is, hey, jump on a mailing list and come take a class. So that I'm just here answering questions and not. And a lot of folks won't do that, right? It becomes a lot of like very weird, like hit the link in bio, talk to me then. No, 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 no. I'm like, be careful, right? Be careful the advice you hear is what I would say. Be careful the advice you take. Be careful the people you listen to, especially when it comes to this. These are your benefits. I'm big on options. I'm big on second opinions. Ask questions, run things by. And then consistency too, right? If you can't tell who you're talking to, that's a problem. I don't like that. So I'll definitely say this when it comes to the way I kind of see things in the space. Um, I like having some transparency in the space. Um, Specifically because let me see if I can pull it up here. Give it a second. I don't like this nameless "we're veterans helping veterans." Like, okay, well then who the heck are you? You know what I'm saying? I just you see my face, right? You see my posts, you see my videos. You don't see a lot of, fabricated stuff, with some assistant just typing things out and nobody really talks or says anything. But the need is there and people just buy into whatever, hot garbage is packaged up and sold to them. You don't need a Nexus letter from some company with a fancy name if they just want to sit there and push you a Nexus letter. And then we ask them a question and they just tell you, well, buy another one. What are we doing? Right. So I don't know. Like I said, I just see things a little bit different. But on my side, look, check the website out. Go to Veterans Network. Check about us. And guess what? You just might see real veterans actually with actually real information, which unlike some other places, that's just not something that we see. We see a lot of just fancy words or fancy pictures, but not real people. I like doing business with real people. So again, maybe I'm just not a realist, but I see things differently and I think it matters. So be careful who you take advice from because sometimes the people that tell you be careful of a thing are the people that you should be careful of themselves because you don't know who they are. Think about it. But all right, good people. Appreciate y'all. I'm going to cut it here and I'll probably pop back in tomorrow as I'm in transit. Filed my second claims 2 weeks ago, wondering how long it'll take for the VA to contact me. Could be days, could be months. Honestly, it depends where you're at, what you filed, the availability, the contractors who get assigned to. So, I mean, it's a crapshoot. So a little bit of a herp and wait situation, but could be days, could be weeks. Um, Over 30 days, nothing crazy. I'm literally about to end the live, so I've been kind of saying the same thing. And again, I get it, but I would definitely say the best advice I can tell you is literally, if you have some time, come to my class on Wednesday. I'm literally going over ACE CMP class. That's literally the focus of the class. It's 45 minutes to 50 minutes of the basics and then a Q&A, right? Because here, like, again, and I'm not opposed to answering something. It's just I'm not going to be able to, really go into deep details about a thing, right? But what is the CMP? What to expect? What not to expect? Tips, etc. Information, and then from there Q&A, and it's controlled, right? Because I understand, these lives when I do them, I know what to expect, right? It's the same question that pops up a few times because you just popped into it, right? So, people don't see sometimes that literally that same question has happened a few times already. Um, and that's fine. Again, I'm not saying it's a wrong thing, right? But rather, I want to make sure that you get value and you truly understand what we're saying, right? So that's why I kind of just answer a question, I move to the other, I give some context, but I can't really full blown teach a thing and then have to repeat it over again, right? Because it doesn't really help us move together. So that's what I would say. But the biggest thing I would say for sure for any VA claim that you're filing, it's a present tense thing, right? That's what I would tell you. Conversations of VA claims are present tense. That means it's about today. It's not about the past. It's not about what happened. It's not about what you did. The VA is not paying you for for your service. It's not paying you for what you did. It's not paying you for what your job was. That is an erroneous point of view that gets veterans in trouble because we started to think that they should pay us for something different, right? They think that they should, pay us because our job did a thing. No, it's you're being compensated for things you're dealing with now. You're not being paid for your job. You got paid for your job. You have a DD 214 that says that, right? So, it's again, but if you don't understand that, you walk in there, well, how did Crystal get a rating and she was this and I did that? What are we talking about? Like, that's not the way this goes, right? You're being compensated for issues post service. Maybe put your ego aside and actually speak to what you're dealing with. And that gets lost. So sometimes, sadly, a cook is going to have a higher rating than someone who jumped out of helicopters because you're not being paid because you were a cook or you jumped out of helicopters, right? You're being compensated based off of disability and your ability to articulate and show and make that argument. That's it. Ego's a problem, especially with some of our, high speed operators in the military. Um, I see it all the time. Um, so that's what I would say for sure. Use a different company. Only got 10. Now I wouldn't like that to me. Like again, I have so many thoughts on that that I would just say I'm sorry that you went through that, Calvin. I have thoughts, but I'm not into the business of talking about people's business out here because they always watching, and I just don't have to smoke. I don't have time for that smoke, nor do I care for it. But if that's all they got, that's yeah, bum bum bum. But yeah, so that's what I'll say on that. But check out the class for sure. But yeah, present tense. The conversation is present tense as far as a tip. Any claim you're filing, how are you impaired today? Today is my issue. Today is my problem. Today is the things that are impairing me and affecting me. And that's what I would say that veterans just sometimes can't do. We live in the past. And I have this, again, I'm saying it again. So if you hear it somewhere else, I said it. When we talk about these little ratings going away, guess what? Back at 2022. Look at my videos. I've been talking about this since they announced these changes, these proposed changes. They're not happening yet. They're still pending. Um, but the issue is getting to a place of just understanding today, where we're at today. If we can talk about today, that's big. So my rule that I kind of have, like this DP rule, is 90-10. We're talking disabilities, it's 10% past, 90% present. MST, 10% what happened, 90% what's happening. PTSD, 10% what happened, 90% what happened. Injured, 10% what happened, 90% how I'm affected compared to today and what's happening. Migraines, it started 10%, 90% today. Sometimes veterans spend too much time talking about the past and not enough time talking about the now. And then the other tip I would say is that it's not a healthcare conversation. It is a conversation of your disability. We're not talking meds, we're not talking doctors, we're talking symptoms. Symptoms. The symptoms have not been mitigated by healthcare. So if they haven't been mitigated by healthcare, why are we talking about that so much? So I'll leave you with this. Let's go over to the CFR. And I like using this as an example specifically. You're literally a witch because I'm literally going to say, I was going to say that. I like using migraines as an example specifically when it comes um, to this. Crap, I went to the wrong one. Blah, beep, blah, 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 plum, 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 plum. Okay, so when I look at migraines to me is a good example for these conversations, right? Because if you can understand this fundamentally, now you're cooking. So when we're talking migraines, look at the very first part here, right? Migraines, award 50 with when you have migraines with very frequent or completely prostrating or prolonged attacks productive of severe economic inadaptability, right? I'm not going to unpack migraines too much because that's CMP class. However, I would offer to you this. I don't see any mention of medication. At 30, prostrating attacks occurring on average once a month over the last several months. At 10, characteristics of prostrating attacks averaging 1 in 2 months over the last several months. At 0, less frequent attacks. So there's two things happening here. From 10 to 30 and 50, we're talking frequency, intensity, right? The intensity is prostrating. I must prostrate myself. I must lay down. I must stop what I'm doing. But the frequency of how often it happens. At the 50, though, the part people will forget is this last part, right? The severe economic inadaptability. How is it affecting you work wise? Are we burning leave? Are we missing work? Whatever is going on, we have to speak to that at that 50 range, not just the frequency and intensity, but it's that third part that people just kind of miss, right? Intensity, prostrating, frequency, how often it happens. 50 range, severe economic inadaptability. How is that affecting that? That's key. Notice in that conversation, there was no talk of medication because you want to go in there and talk about I've been seeing 5 neurologists. I'm on Botox, on Revly, I'm on Cambia, I'm on shots, I'm on this, I'm on that. Why are you talking about needless things? You're talking healthcare. When we're talking symptoms, it means that none of that shit has stopped this. All the Botox in the world, and Cambias in the world, and Brevlys in the world, and all the modalities in the world, and the 5 neurologists you're under seeing, etc. I've not mitigated the fact that you have frequent, completely prostrating attacks that are causing economic inadaptability. But you want to spend the whole CNP talking about medication. Well, if we're talking medication, it must be working, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, think about that for a second. That same argument, you know what I'm saying, it applies in so many ways. For example, let's jump back to mental health. The only time you hear medication on mental health, because you want to talk about all the meds you're on, is literally at the 10% range. Symptoms controlled by continuous use of medication. The only time the word medication shows up in the mental health rating. You don't see it at the 30 range, you don't see it at the 50 range, you don't see it at the 70 range, you don't see it at the 100 range. But you want to sit here talking about all of the meds and healthcare things you're doing and doctors that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? That not well, not doctors that you're doing, but things that you're doing and doctors that you're seeing, right? That's a whole different conversation now. You over there freaking doing something with your doctor, man. That might be some inappropriate things, right? I hit all that. They sent a request for a different doctor for another opinion. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So sometimes that could be the play, you know. And then on top of that, too, we have the issue where the VA does get it wrong, right? So sadly, 68% of the time, the VA, you know, has got it wrong. Where is it? And I'll bring that up here just because I just mentioned it. So I like to touch on it. So when I talk about the failure rate of the VA, it has to be called out for a few reasons. So this is actually an OIG report from the VA. As you can see here, the BVA can improve the accuracy and completeness of their medical opinions. In English, it means that they've been jacking up crap on disabilities. So a few things I hit on, especially on my CMP classes, is most veterans do not understand that I take the position I take because I don't cut the VA no breaks, especially when they put aside $6.8 billion. Oh, they're going to stop paying us because they don't have $3 billion, but they have $6 billion to do these exams. But you don't want to show up. Again, you have to understand the terrain that we're operating in. But the fact of the matter is this. Right here, you see it pretty simple. 68% of the time in the statistic pool, they found that the VA was not doing the things they should have done. Instances where claim processors did not frequently identify relevant information for medical evidence to review. They did not ask for adequate language or opinions, or did not do the things they should have done. And these failings, as you can see here, this is going to sound familiar for some people, can lead to inaccurate medical opinions, incorrect decisions, wink, wink, stomp, stomp, delayed decisions for veterans, and wasted resources. It's the OIG saying it, not me. Right? This is what's happening. So you're doing everything right, but I have to, that's what I'm saying, like, this is more than someone saying do a thing. Yeah, you did all that stuff they told you to do. Then this happens, you give up. No, the VA still is getting things wrong. So we have to understand that we're fighting uphill battle. The first order of business is empower a veteran, get a veteran in a place where they understand what they must do. Once we do that, then we have to get to a place where the veteran in turn now understands that they are dealing with a system that sometimes is broken. So you may have all your ducks in order, you have everything correct. However, the system got it wrong. So now what do? We fight, right? So, little things like that. Let's see. Janet Ever. Talk to the regional office today and they spent half the call hating on the VA. I can see it. What's up, Zach? I can definitely see it. Um, so some things there for sure to consider. Um, all right, let me get rid of this, get rid of that. But yeah, that's the plan of action for Wednesday. Deep diving all things CMP. So I'd love to see you there. Link in my page will take you there. It won't happen here on social media. So that's the biggest thing I want to emphasize because sometimes folks miss that. So, um, but yeah, I think we're good. So got all the questions out the way as best we could. Uh, this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Hit the link in bio. It has a whole schedule there, so you'll be able to actually see that too. But this Wednesday is the next CMP class, and then the following Wednesday after that, it's navigating VA claims, and then the following Wednesday. So I alternate them. I get my if I live everything that they have. Doctor. Awesome. Let's see. Hope to see you there. It doesn't matter. Primary or base. Doctor's a doctor. I'm sorry to hear that. Read that, Janet. From what I understand, I get buried my husband tomorrow. He passed. Hmm. Yeah, send me a message. Chris, find out what's going on with that. But that's also why we do these things, right? That's why we do these things. We hold space because sometimes, connections can be made and things can come across, etc. So, yeah. All right, so that'll be the last question for the day. Payroll findings just means that you have a diagnosis, but they're not saying it's service connected. So you do have migraines. So payroll finding is you have a disability, but not service connected. So you didn't argue strong enough or present an argument for that service connections. Jeez. Actually, DBQ the only way to get no. Well, the next in DBQ, that's again the DBQ is the form the system uses of a standard process thing. Nexus is the connection. You don't have a strong nexus, so certain things are missing for you to connect that argument. So you have to look at what can we add to that. A DBQ is not going to solve that. It's a rationale argument, right? What are the things you're using to prove the nexus? Medical records, proof, etc. Things as such, right? So how are we painting the picture to the VA to point something back to service? That's the biggest thing. Um, let's see. But yeah, so it's a Nexus thing there for sure. It is a Nexus thing. Um, alrighty. So that is my time, as stated how many times ago. But I will see you all. Um, shortly here. Janet's connected. Good. All right, good. I like it. Uh, you're welcome. Oh yeah, yeah. Guys, turn that bell notification on. So we've been at it for about a good hour and change now. So that's my time. But yeah, travel back home tomorrow, and good time here today. Check out stories here of the journeys with Jerry for his birthday. So check that out. But we celebrated with our Navy veteran, one of my OG vets from way back when that we worked with. So glad that we got to spend that time. I added some stories, so those will be up for a little bit. I put one post up, but TikTok's not the best with stories, so I'm just trying to test it out to see how that goes. But we try things. But all right, people, I'll go ahead and call it there, and I'll see y'all next time. Appreciate y'all. Be safe. Good luck on your exams. See you in class.